For 5 years, this murder was considered solved. Everyone, including the police, believed the case was solved. They were wrong. Police had a suspect. The town believed it. But the real killer was never questioned. She was never a suspect because she was family and she was standing beside them the entire time. On October 14, 2019, Emily Harper left her house just after 8:40 p.m. She locked the door behind her. She took her phone. She told no one exactly where she was going. In Willow Creek, Oregon, that wasn't unusual. It was the kind of town where night walks were normal, where danger was something that happened somewhere else to someone else. Emily walked often, after long hospital shifts, after heavy days. She never came home. By morning, she was dead. And from the very beginning, the town and the police decided they already knew why. Willow Creek sat quietly between dark forest lines and slow, shallow water. Fewer than 9,000 people lived there, most of them for decades. People knew each other's routines, knew which cars belonged where, knew when something didn't fit. That night, nothing seemed out of place. Emily's car remained parked near her home. No forced entry, no sign of a struggle. When she failed to show up for work the next morning, co-workers assumed she'd overslept. By noon, panic had set in. Search teams formed quickly. Police officers, volunteers, neighbors who still believed bad things only happened in the news. Just after sunrise on October 15th, a volunteer spotted something beneath a sycamore tree near Willow Creek Trail. It was Emily. She lay on her side, her body positioned unnaturally still. One shoe missing, her jacket half-zipped. There was blood at the back of her head. The medical examiner would later confirm what police already suspected from the scene. Emily Harper had been killed by a single powerful blow. No defensive wounds, no signs of sexual assault, no evidence of a prolonged struggle, which meant one thing. Emily hadn't been afraid. She hadn't run. She hadn't fought. She had trusted the person standing in front of her. That detail would quietly disappear into paperwork. Detective Mark Reynolds arrived at the scene shortly after 7 a.m. A veteran officer, known in Willow Creek as calm, reliable, practical. He later described the town this way. This wasn't a murder town. This was a lost dog town. Murders complicated things. They demanded answers. And Detective Reynolds believed answers were easiest when you didn't overthink them. Emily Harper was 28 years old, a pediatric nurse at St. Anne's Medical Center, a volunteer, a woman co-workers described as gentle, steady, and impossible to dislike. She had no criminal history, no known enemies, but she did have a boyfriend. His name was Daniel Wright. Daniel was 31, a freelance architectural consultant from Portland who had arrived in Willow Creek earlier that year to work on a historical lodge renovation. Tall, well-spoken, new to town, outsiders stood out in Willow Creek. Emily met Daniel at a cafe downtown. Witnesses confirmed it. The two struck up a conversation that turned into coffee, which turned into dinners, which turned into nights spent together. They moved fast. Friends noticed. Some admired it. Others questioned it. Emily didn't seem concerned. She introduced Daniel to her closest friend, Madeline Collins. Maddie and Emily had become inseparable in the year prior. Morning jogs, Sunday brunch, long talks about marriage, children, and escaping small-town life. People often described them as sisters. Maddie told police later, "Emily was the safest person I knew. Police believed her. They never questioned her. They didn't question her because Maddie cried, because Maddie was cooperative, Because Maddie looked exactly how grief was supposed to look. Within days of the murder, police began reconstructing Emily's final hours. They learned Daniel and Emily had argued earlier that week. They learned Daniel had no solid alibi the night Emily died. They learned Daniel had stayed at Emily's house multiple times. And by the end of the second week, the investigation quietly narrowed. Not because evidence demanded it, but because assumptions did. Daniel Wright became the focus. Police searched his apartment, found nothing. They examined his phone. No threats. No violent messages. They tested his clothing. No blood. Still, suspicion stuck. In a town like Willow Creek, suspicion was enough. Daniel noticed the change quickly. Friends stopped returning calls. Neighbors watched him differently. He told police. People had already decided. By early 2020, Daniel left Oregon. The town took that as confirmation. Police called it non-cooperation. The case slowed, then stalled. By 2021, Emily Harper's murder was officially classified as cold. Boxes were labeled, files were shelved, and the story settled into something simple. A woman trusted the wrong man. But there was a problem. Emily didn't go for a walk that night. She didn't wander aimlessly onto the trail. Phone data later confirmed her steps were deliberate, timed, direct. She was going somewhere, to meet someone. Police never asked who. They never pulled full call logs. They never asked who else knew Emily's routine. They never noticed that one number, saved under a generic name, had been deleted from her phone just hours before her death. Because they believed the case was already solved. And because someone else wanted it that way. That person attended the memorial. She hugged Emily's mother. She cried beside Maddie. She listened as Daniel's name was whispered with quiet certainty. Her name was Lauren Collins, Maddie's younger sister, quiet, reserved, nearly invisible. Police spoke to her once. She told them she barely knew Emily. They wrote it down, and they never spoke to her again. What police didn't know, what no one knew, was that Lauren Collins had met Daniel Wright months before Emily ever did, that she had fallen in love with him first, and that on the night Emily died, Lauren Collins was not at home. She was awake, she was watching, and she knew exactly where Emily was going. The case didn't go cold because the evidence disappeared. It went cold because the truth was standing right beside them, smiling and waiting. When Daniel Wright left Oregon in early 2020, people in Willow Creek treated it like a confession. They said innocent men didn't run. They said guilt always revealed itself. No one asked what it feels like to live in a town where every glance accuses you of murder. Daniel didn't leave in the middle of the night. He packed his car in daylight. He told police where he was going. He asked if there was anything else he could do. There wasn't. The investigation had already slowed to a crawl, but Daniel didn't know that. From his perspective, the silence felt calculated, like pressure, like waiting for the handcuffs. He moved back to Portland, found temporary work, and stopped answering calls from Willow Creek numbers. Behind him, the story hardened. Emily Harper trusted the wrong man. It was neat, simple, easy to remember. Detective Mark Reynolds closed his notebook and told himself the hardest part was over. Years passed. Emily's parents stopped calling the station. Her coworkers stopped asking for updates. Her name became something people spoke softly, carefully, as if volume alone might reopen wounds. And the file was boxed. But boxed cases don't mean resolved ones. In 2024, Detective Angela Morris requested the Harper file. She was new to the department. younger, known for methodical work rather than instincts. She didn't believe in gut feelings. She believed in patterns. The first thing she noticed was how early the investigation had narrowed. The second was how many assumptions were written as conclusions. Daniel argued with Emily. Daniel had no alibi. Daniel left town. None of those things were evidence. They were context. Angela started with timelines. Emily left her house just after 8:40 p.m. Her phone showed movement consistent with walking, steady, unhurried. No erratic stops. No sudden changes in pace. She wasn't running, which meant she wasn't scared. Angela noted something else. Emily's phone had connected briefly to a tower it wouldn't normally ping unless she had stopped near Willow Creek Trail. Not wandered. Stopped. As if waiting. Angela searched for call records. They were incomplete. Only partial logs had been pulled in 2019. She requested the full set. What came back didn't scream murder. It whispered secrecy. Dozens of calls had been deleted in the days leading up to Emily's death. Late-night calls, short calls, calls to a number saved under a generic name. Angela cross-referenced the number. It wasn't Daniel's. That was the first crack. She interviewed Daniel in Portland. He showed up willingly. Older, thinner, tired. He told the same story he had told 5 years earlier. About the argument, about the tension, about leaving town because he felt hunted. When Angela asked if he had ever been unfaithful, Daniel paused, then said no. Angela believed him, not because she trusted him, but because lies usually arrive too quickly. She returned to Willow Creek. She spoke to Madeline Collins again. Maddie still lived with the weight of grief. Still described Emily as her closest friend. She said the same things. Nothing new. Nothing suspicious. Angela asked about Maddie's sister, Lauren Collins. Maddie smiled, briefly. Lauren keeps to herself, she said. Always has. Angela reviewed Lauren's original interview. 1 page. Barely any questions. Lauren had said she barely knew Emily. Angela checked phone records. They hadn't been pulled. That was the second crack. Lauren Collins worked part-time at the Willow Creek Library in 2019. Angela requested her records. Lauren had helped Daniel write months before Emily met him. Researching historical architecture. Long sessions. Private. Lauren had met Daniel first. He made her feel seen. Then he met Emily. And Emily took everything. Lauren followed Emily that night. She confronted her. Words turned sharp. A shove. A rock. One moment. Emily never knew why she was dying. When Maddie was told, she collapsed. Not because her sister was a killer, but because she had unknowingly protected her. By staying silent, by trusting the wrong narrative. Lauren Collins pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. Daniel Wright was cleared. The town of Willow Creek didn't celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate, because the truth didn't restore Emily. It only revealed how easily everyone had been fooled. The most dangerous secrets aren't hidden in shadows. They sit at dinner tables. They attend memorials. They cry with you. And sometimes, they share your blood. Emily's story was almost buried under the wrong name. Subscribe if you believe the truth deserves more time than the first accusation. Let's hear your thoughts in the comments.